Hello, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for joining us today. We are here to talk about strategies for getting out of debt. And the very first thing I just want to share with you is that having debt is a really common source of stress in people's lives. It can feel overwhelming if you're facing it, and may make you feel like you're very much alone or other people are not in the same situation. We want to let you know that having experiences with debt is really normal, and that it's not going to stop you from reaching your financial goals, that you can get there. So congratulations for joining us today. That's, I would say, the first step by attending this webinar. My name is Jen Fries, and I'm the Community Engagement Manager for the Harvard Federal Credit Union. Some of you may know us by our old name, which was the Harvard University Employees Credit Union. We're excited to now be Harvard Federal Credit Union, and to make it clear that we're open to a broader spectrum of people to join the credit union. I am joined in the background by Ty Koppelson, who is on my team and is going to be just helping manage the Q&A and putting links into the chat as we talk about different topics that you might want to explore further. So just a little housekeeping, I guess, is that this is a webinar format. So the chat is disabled, except for we can post links in there for you. If you want to ask us a question, you need to go into the Q&A feature of Zoom. And for some people, you're going to need to go into the section that says more on your toolbar. The bar that has the mute and the video also has the place where it has Q&A, and sometimes it's not showing up. So you might have to hit more, go into the Q&A. If you want to go in and practice that, go in and just let us know where you're joining us from. We love to hear that kind of thing. It helps us connect a little bit with you. And this presentation is being recorded. You can rewatch it on YouTube. You're also going to get the slides just from registering. You'll get the slides in your email, so you don't have to go crazy taking notes. And we will send you a survey to fill out after the workshop. We'd love to get feedback and to improve these presentations. So please let us know what is working for you, what isn't. And we definitely read all of your surveys, so thank you. And then just a couple more little things before we get started. For those of you who don't know about Harvard FCU or don't know about credit unions are very much like a bank. We do everything that your bank would do. You can have a savings account, checking account, credit card, loans with us, a mortgage, any of the services you would typically go to a bank for. But a credit union, the key difference is we are not owned by outside shareholders. We are owned by our members. So you, the members, me as a member, I am an owner of our credit union. And that means that we don't have to generate a profit for some outside shareholders. Everything is to be for the best benefit, we hope, of our members. And when you join, you're a member for life, even if you leave the place where it got you the eligibility to join. If you started out at, everyone on this call, I believe, is from Beth Israel Lahey Health. I didn't say that. And welcome. Thank you for joining us. So if you joined us because you're working at Beth Israel Lahey and you leave, you can continue to be a member for life, or you can also close an account and come back and reopen it later. Your family is also eligible to join. And one thing that a lot of people don't realize is that when you use your debit card you might feel like you have to go to one of our ATMs, but that's not true. We actually refund all of your fees for debit cards anywhere in the United States. So you can go ahead and feel free to use your debit card wherever is convenient for you. So we hope that everything we do is set up so it's a little bit more convenient for our members. And then the community engagement team, which I'm a part of, we have this whole service that we provide to our members that we call Thrive. And it's the idea that you can thrive in your financial life. We do have a whole page on the website devoted to Thrive. There is access to free financial counseling, which we'll talk more about later, blogs on all kinds of financial topics, workshops, worksheets and calculators, short videos, and an online education portal. Everything that we do is designed to not be salesy and just really to help you evaluate what's best for you. So we, again, hope that you take advantage of that. That's there for you. And you don't have to be a member to access Thrive. Just by being on this webinar, you can use that service. So if you're facing a lot of debt, you might feel like you're treading water and that you're never able to kind of get ahead. So I think one thing that does really help in finances and in motivation generally is to think past it. Think, what are your goals? Why do you want to pay off your debt? So you might have financial goals that are different. Money is really personal, and what I want in my financial life is different than what someone else might want. So it's helpful if you can take a minute to visualize, what would it look like if your debt is paid off? What would that allow you to do in your financial life? Um, for example, for me, I had a time when I had racked up a fair amount of credit cards and I was not able to pay off my credit card every month. It was getting to the point where sometimes I was just paying the minimums. And for me, being able to pay off my credit cards was a first step into being able to save for certain home repairs that I wanted to do. And I didn't want to get deeper in debt, so I wasn't like taking out credit to do these home repairs, but they did need to be done. So I wanted to be in a place where I was better situated to do that. So you might have your own things. You might be saving for a move or to buy a house. You might be saving for a vacation or something like that. And you might feel like you need to pay off your debt before you can really make progress. So once you know what your goals are, and then you need to figure out, you need to basically make a list and figure out, what exactly do you owe and to whom. And I know that this is not a fun part of it, but literally sitting down, opening up your credit card statements online or paper, whatever it is, make the list. And the list is going to be, what do you owe? What's the total amount that you owe? Who do you owe it to? So I had like Chase credit card, I owed this amount. What is the current balance and what is the interest rate that you are paying? Because that's going to help you make decisions about which you repay when. Um, you can also get your credit score for free if you are a member of Harvard FCU. It's on the online banking under more. Um, and many other credit cards and banks offer your credit score, because that can also be helpful. We'll talk later on about the cost of debt, and different debts and interest rates are available to you based on your credit score. We're also going to share with you about how to access your annual credit report. You can actually get it more than once a year. So we'll talk about that. But starting with a list, what do you owe? What's the interest rate is the first step. And then that is going to help you to actually calculate the cost of your debt. So this borrower, this person owes two different lenders. They have two loans. One is at $10,000 and at 7.5% interest rate. And one is a $5,000 loan at 18%. And the total interest that would be paid over the life of these loans, it looks like these are both term loans, they know how long they're going to be, is going to be about $7,000 in interest to their lenders. And yeah, so it's a total amount of about 15,000 owed, a monthly payment of $246, and about 7,000 in interest owed. So this is just a sample. You might also have a credit card, so it might not have a term, an amount of time, and that's fine. Meaning it's a revolving debt, but you also want to include that on your list. One of the things that can be a little bit counterintuitive is, I know it was for me, I felt like, oh, I have to pay off all this credit. card stuff before I actually start saving, but it was then becomes the cycle where I was never able to, then I would continually be adding to the credit card because I didn't have any savings to tap into when little things came up. So we do recommend that you try to do both at the same time, even if it's a small amount that you're saving on top of what you're putting toward your debt. So you could say that you're going to do $50 a pay period and start putting it into savings. Your goal is to be first to get to, your first goal should be to get to about 3 months of expenses. And it might take you 3 years to get there in savings, but better to start now. And that will also be what you can draw on if you have something come up that would otherwise set you back, and that would otherwise go onto your credit card. So we do recommend that you start slow, that you automate those savings, and ideally that you start saving and not touching it. But if you need to dip into it, it is there for you. So let's go a little bit more into those debt repayment strategies. You do have your list written out. You know what you owe now. Um, Now is a good time to start thinking about, well, how do I want to pay it back? So there are a couple strategies that you will see recommended a lot. And it doesn't really honestly matter which you choose. So one is called the snowball method, one is called the avalanche method. And for both of them, you're going to be making your minimum payments on your debt every month. If you can automate that, I know there were times in my life where my finances were so tight I didn't dare automate it. But if you can automate even just the minimum payment, then you're making sure you're never going to miss a payment. You're never going to be paying fees as a result of missing a payment. And then, so for the snowball method, you're going to choose your smallest loan. And the idea is, you know how when you make a snowball, you start small and you roll and it gets bigger, and you can even make one big enough for making a snowman or something. So the idea is that maybe I have 4 credit card loans, and um, it's honestly just hard to stay on top of them and make sure I'm making all my payments and remembering. So I picked the smallest one. This one I only owe 800 on. And over the next few months, I'm going to make extra payments on that smallest one and pay it off. So I can just eliminate that credit card, whether it be that I put it aside or close the account, whichever, there might, we don't recommend you close accounts if you're getting ready to get a mortgage out. It's better to have it, but not use it. And then I'll choose, after I've paid off that smallest one, I'll choose the next one and be like, okay, this one I owe 1,500 on, and then start allocating those same payments to that next one. And one of the advantages of the snowball method, just from a psychology and behavioral economics point of view, it can be very satisfying to close or pay off a debt. So it allows you to see progress. If you're the kind of person that likes to see your gains, it can be helpful to do that. And it can also help you, again, if you are feeling overwhelmed just staying on top of all the bills. Having one totally paid off and knowing that, oh, I don't use that USAA account anymore, I just have it. The other one is the avalanche method. It's like an avalanche starting at the top of the mountain and coming down. You're picking your highest interest rate loan. So you might have, typically that's a credit card. It could also be a student loan or an auto loan that is variable interest or what came at a higher interest. Normally your federal student loans, if you had any of those direct loans, those are going to typically be lower interest rate, but you might have taken a private student loan. I know I did. Or you may have, again, a auto loan or something like that that's a higher interest rate. So you're making extra payments on your higher interest rate loan. And the rationale for that is really just math, that that's the one that you're spending the most by having the most interest. So the faster you can pay that off, you will have money benefits from that. So then when that is paid off, and it might take 2 years or something to pay your highest interest rate loan, or longer, depending what it is, then you move down to the next debt and so forth, and then you clear your debts that way. So again, that's just the difference, the snowball starting at the bottom, the avalanche starting at the top. Those are just sort of visual cues about what these methods are. So pick the one that makes sense to you. The main thing we just need to be aware of is if you just pay that minimum payment on a credit card, it will never be paid off. The minimum payment is not designed for you to have paid off your balance. So whereas with like a car loan, if you're paying the minimum, you do know at some point it will be paid off. That's not the case with a credit card. So you do need to calculate and make those extra payments on your debt to be able to see some progress. And we do want you to know that a little bit goes a long way. So if you pay an extra $25 a month, so this person had a monthly payment of $200, they look at their budget and they figure they can spare $25. They are able to knock 8 months off their loan just by doing that, by putting that extra $25 a month. And so again, those things may be really significant to you just in terms of like motivating yourself. You may think about like in 8 months, what's going to be happening? For me, my kids in college, I often am thinking of things still in the school year, and I'm like, oh, and when she's at this point in her college career, I could have this paid off or something. And that could mean that, I could help fund a special family trip or something like that. So that's just what a huge difference $25 a month could do. If they could spare $50 extra a month, if they could find it, whether that be because you cancel something that a subscription or a couple subscriptions that you're paying for, or downgrade something, you may find that you can squeeze out $50 somehow. It's going to make an even bigger difference. They end up paying $400 less in interest over the course of the loan, and they get it paid off 14 months sooner. So more than a year sooner, they're done with this loan and can, move on to these numbers are even more dramatic the higher your interest rate is. So 7%, as you may know, is a pretty low interest rate right now for what's out there. If you have a higher interest rate debt, you're going to see more value to paying quicker because a lot of what you're paying is interest on your debt. So then we definitely recommend that you learn some of your options, and we're going to talk you through what some of those options would be as you're thinking about paying off your debt. One option that we don't think about a lot is to talk to the lender. You can call your credit card company, for instance, and talk with them about whether or not you can get an interest rate deduction. You can tell them that, you're really thinking about closing this account because you've been offered this better deal, or you're looking around and you feel like it's not competitive anymore, and see if they will be willing to decrease your interest rate. You can also propose a new payment if that's something that you need to do. So if you're having trouble keeping current with your loans and you're not in a position where you can pay an extra, you're listening to what I just said and you're like, Jen, there's no way I can squeeze out any extra. I'm, paying for childcare through the nose, and you know how housing is and food's going up. I can't pay any extra. Maybe you actually just want to talk to your lender about restructuring your debt so that you have time. Maybe it will take you longer, but you propose a new payment that you can do and you can keep up with. There may be options for loan deferment, forbearance, extension, or consolidation. I'm going to give you a resource at the end for free financial counseling through a nonprofit that we work with called Green Path. I definitely recommend that you talk with them, especially if you're thinking about doing one of these more complicated things. They can help you work through the options for you that are best for your personal situation. And they also can directly talk to some of your creditors for you and get you a better rate. So we're going to give you the information about Green Path before we end this call. Um, and then just make sure you take good notes as you talk to your creditors, take note of whatever they tell you. I talked to Daria on this day and she gave me this reference number and she told me that, this change was going to happen with my loan. So you always want to be keeping track of these things. And it might be on that same list you made earlier, which can be a spreadsheet or it can just be a paper list. When I was paying back my credit cards, it really wasn't a complicated situation. And I just kept track of like the balance and the interest rate on a piece of paper. And it was very satisfying to like cross out one balance amount and be like, no, now I only owe this amount, and, gradually make my way down. But obviously a Google spreadsheet or Excel sheet is great too for that kind of thing. So refinancing is an option for some debts. And particularly you'll see offers for student loans. One thing we just want you to watch out for is if you're thinking about refinancing your student loans, if your student loan is with direct loans with the federal government, that gives you eligibility for any of the government programs that they roll out around forgiveness, forbearance, that kind of thing. And if you refinance that somewhere else with a private lender, you're closing yourself off from options for forgiveness and forbearance. So you just want to be careful in refinancing. You want to make sure that you understand your terms and how they might change. And again, I definitely recommend Green Path. We're going to give you that resource to speak to them. If you are thinking about refinancing student loan debt, they are certified student loan counselors and can help you think through, the pros and cons of refinancing. But other kinds of debt can be refinanced as well. You might look at a credit card and say, this is, crazy interest rates that I'm paying. Maybe you can talk to your credit union or bank about getting a personal loan. Maybe they offer that. Some people might roll up some of their debt into a home equity loan, tapping into the equity of your house. That is a risk because if you are not able to pay a home equity loan, they can put a lien against your house or even theoretically foreclose on your house. So again, you want to know what you're getting into, but it might make sense for some people to say, okay, I have this 25% interest rate credit card and I can either refinance it to a better card, or maybe for me, it does make sense to put it into a home equity loan and I have a plan to pay it off. And that can end up being a much smarter way to do things so you're not paying so much interest. So here's some of the benefits of refinancing. It could reduce your monthly payment, and it could also reduce the amount of interest that you pay over the life of the loan. Another option might be to keep the monthly payment the same, but if you got that lower interest rate, you might have it paid off 3 months earlier and save a little bit on interest. So that's like an in-between thing. You're paying $200 a month and you're able to maintain it. So you get the lower interest rate, you keep paying your $200 a month and you get it paid off even sooner and pay less interest. So you can decide as you're doing it, like, is it most important to me to have a lower monthly payment? Or is it more important to me to have it paid off sooner because I have certain goals I want to achieve? And that's why when we talked about knowing your goals is really important. So some of the things to consider when you're refinancing, just general things, you're going to compare interest rates. And you don't want to trade generally a fixed interest rate for a variable one unless it's extremely attractive for some reason. So you want to make sure you're taking a look at, because a variable interest rate can go up quite a bit over the life of a loan. So just be conservative about that. Think about it. There may be certain benefits associated with the original loan, like I told you about direct loans from the federal government. What used to be known as Sallie Mae. If you have some really older loans, you might think of it as Sallie Mae. It's now called direct loans. Those are the programs that allow you to access federal forgiveness, forbearance, any of the programs that you might have heard about. For instance, they had a certain forbearance plan during the COVID pandemic. And there are, forgiveness plans for public service and things like that that you may be eligible for at the hospital. And then as your credit score goes up, as you start improving your payments or improving your ratio of how much debt you're using versus how much credit you have, you're going to see your credit score go up. You may then find you start getting some offers for cheaper cards. That can be an option to roll over. You have something at a higher interest rate, you might get a lower interest rate credit card and roll over some of the balance to that or all of it to be able to pay it off faster. So those are some options and things to think about. We talked about some of these already. These are some of the places you might look for lower rates. And Harvard FCU does offer personal loans and some specialty loans. And then of course we have student loans, which many of you know. So I've been talking a lot about GreenPath. And honestly, if you just take away one thing from this presentation, I would definitely recommend, if you're concerned about your debt and you want to get a plan in place, making an appointment with GreenPath. They're available to talk extended business hours in many different languages. Again, they're a nonprofit. So there are lots of companies that like advertise online, like, come talk to us about your debt. And they're, again, trying to make a profit off you, just like the credit card company is, whereas GreenPath is a nonprofit. They're there to just give you advice. And I really think it's a great resource. You don't have to be a credit union member. You can just, because you're on this webinar, you are able to access GreenPath. And Ty's going to put the link into the chat and we'll send it to you as well after this presentation is over. But I definitely recommend, you can talk to them just once, and you could talk to them and get more extensive help. So the more extensive help that I do want to tell you quickly about is, in addition to the free counseling, GreenPath also offers something called a debt management plan. So this does have a cost. It is a plan where you're paying GreenPath your monthly payment, and then they pay your creditors. What this can do for some people is it can just simplify things. You just have one monthly payment, you know what it is. GreenPath goes and negotiates with creditors to reduce your debts, provides you with financial counseling so you know exactly what to expect within the next number of months. I'm going to be paid off, or years. I will be 2 years, I'll be totally paid off with my debt, for instance. And there is a monthly fee, but because they're negotiating you a lower interest rate, they try and have it so that your fee is less than what you would have been paying in interest. It is not the same as debt settlement. We do not recommend debt settlement plans because they're often quite expensive, and these are private companies, and they often also do not fully clear your credit. So debt management, you do pay all the debt that you owe. So just an example, this is GreenPath's program. This person comes to GreenPath and they're making, they have 5 debts, and we're making a $799 monthly payment toward their debt. Of that, most of the money that they were paying was going toward interest. $573 that they were paying of their $799 monthly payment, it was going just toward the interest on their debt. So they were never making any progress. And that's why you get that feeling of treading water. Only $75 a month was going toward their principal, what they owed, the actual amount that they owed. Once they got on the GreenPath program, their interest rates were reduced. And so they continue to make that $799 payment, but much more is going toward the principal. And they're paying a $50 service fee for the service. They will pay off their debts 40 months sooner than they would have, and they will save $31,960 in interest on their debt. So this is just a sample of a real example of somebody that was in a really bad situation with debt and needed a plan to get out of it. So this is a great plan for them to get out of it. So it is something that they can talk you through. Should you consider debt management plan, or maybe you don't need that. like for me, I just did pay off my debt myself, but I did have to make my own plan for doing that. And I could have done that with GreenPath if I had only known that they existed. So next steps, I would say stay motivated. Think about what action you want to take today, this week, this month. Maybe today you just want to start working on well, today you came to this webinar. Maybe this week you work on putting together a list of your what you owe and making sure you know that. Maybe you also want to talk to GreenPath. And those are all great things that you could be doing within the next period of time to get to yourself to a better place, and you'll thank yourself later, basically. We do have all of our webinars up on our YouTube account. We're Harvard FCU now on YouTube. So check out some of the recent webinars on things like improving your credit, on budgeting, estate planning, etc. If any of those things are of interest to you. These are just general good financial wellness principles. This is not tax, legal, or investment advice. I mentioned we do really appreciate getting your honest feedback. So if you could fill out our survey, we're also going to send you the link by email. I haven't seen anything in the chat, I mean in the Q&A. So if anybody does have any questions, please feel free to jump into the Q&A and ask them. We can answer questions privately, and we can also answer questions out loud. So feel free to ask if you have anything on your mind. Other than that, I do want you to know how to reach us. We're Harvard FCU on all social channels. Our website is harvardfcu.org. And oh, I'm sorry, there is a typo on my email here. I really apologize. This is an artifact of we switched emails. I am jfreeze@harvardfcu.org. I'm putting that in the chat. And that's our branch in Harvard Square, Mount Auburn Street. But you may bank with us at Longwood. Actually, that's actually the staff at Longwood. So those may be faces that you recognize. Anything else in the Q&A? Not seeing any. So thank you for coming to this webinar. Congratulations on taking a step toward improving your situation with debt. And we definitely encourage you to be in touch. Take advantage of GreenPath if that is something that you would like, or take advantage of the Thrive page for like budgets and worksheets and the blog as well. So thank you and have a good rest of your day.